sensory care items, survival guides for hospitals. I suppose for me, the biggest piece of advice that I can give is make sure your bag is packed in plenty of time. My third child was nearly 6 weeks early, which meant I was completely unprepared and had not packed my bag at all. Which once I got into hospital, I then found really difficult not having anything around me that was mine. I personally, because of my sensory issues, found the hospital environment massively overwhelming. Noise was one of the biggest problems for me because I'm extremely noise sensitive. So good quality earplugs would be an absolute must. And also noise cancelling headphones for when things really get too much. If there's a baby that's really distressed or something like that, it would be helpful to have those headphones there, or even ear defenders. Another thing that I also found an absolute nightmare was the nursing bras. I struggled to wear a bra at the best of times, but the nursing bras were, because they have to give so much support, were really, really restrictive. But without that good support, there was a lot of pain. So it was one of those catch-22 situations. So later in my breastfeeding journey, I found that if I had a really soft elastic extender at the back of my bra, it allowed for my breast to change size and shape throughout the day, which is something that they do as you're getting closer to the feed. You're fuller, and that restriction can actually feel like somebody's giving you a bear hug. So that worked really well for me. And it also stopped a lot of rubbing. I found I got a lot of rubbing and sore from the tightness of the bra. The other thing I would recommend is, even though they say only bring 1 or 2 changes of clothing in, make sure you've got a few extra tops in there. I was surprised just how strong the smell of colostrum is. And also the other thing for me was lots of muslin cloths. And it's something that I look at in hindsight, because a lot of my babies were very windy, very colicky from a very, very early age. And even that littlest bit of posset that's just at the back of your shoulder where you don't know it's there, the smell can be completely and totally overwhelming. So making sure you've got enough tops to be able to change into is another good one. The other thing that I would recommend somebody did that I never did before my first was test out the nursing pads if you're going to be breastfeeding, and do it before the baby's born, because I found the ones that you buy really, really uncomfortable. And it's sensory nightmare. So for my second baby, I made my own. That way I could use sort of toweling inside, but then covered them with a material that I could tolerate on my skin. And it saved a lot of money as well, because then they could just be washed, dried and used again, rather than these really papery ones that get really uncomfortable when they're wet. But I suppose above all, the biggest one for me in hospitals was food. I wouldn't be classed as having ARFID, but I do have a very restricted and limited range of foods that I will eat. And I'm also quite affected by sameness in my diet as well. So making sure that I'd got things that I could eat in my bag was helpful. And I know a Mars bar is not the best meal, but actually it's better than not being able to eat anything at all. And getting your visitors to bring something in. My go-to when I'm in hospital, whether it's to have a baby or for any other reason, is ham sandwiches with the cut off. And they've got to be cut in triangles because that makes them more appealing. But that's just my little niche. The other one I would recommend as well, I took my own pillow, and I made sure that I'd got my favourite perfume on it as well, so it smelt like home. So there was that crossover, and also that I could sleep, because I like a certain type of pillow to sleep on. And especially when you've got a new baby, sleep is really, really important, and quality of sleep. From sort of the delivery aspect, the most important one for me was a toweling headband. Birth's hard work. We can't get away from the fact that birth is hard work. And I found that the sweat rolling down my face and into my eyes was really, really distressing. The one thing I would recommend is that you actually try it on before the birth, because the first one I bought was too tight and it actually made me feel like I had a migraine. The next one, it worked brilliantly, and it was enough to keep it not too tight, but kept the hair out your face and managed to collect moisture. So that was a good one. I also learned to take a drinks bottle rather than, if you ask for a drink in hospital, you very often get given a plastic cup with a straw, which when you're in labour and reaching out to grab bedposts or your birthing partner's hand, they easily fly everywhere. I kept a couple ready in the freezer, and they could just be taken out, and they actually stayed cold for quite a lot of hours that way. So that's a good one, because I know a lot of us struggle to regulate our temperature. So for me, when I get hot, I get really hot, and that ice in water really helped with that. The other one was lip balm, because the rooms are kept really warm. So I found that my lips were starting to feel really dry and cracked, and lip balm was great. And then afterwards, I found that the bulky pads that you're given were a nightmare, and it was just so uncomfortable. So with my last baby, I invested in thinner pads, but absorbent period pants as well, to stop any leaks as well. So double protection rather than a great big thick pad that, yeah, well, I won't go into descriptions, but there's lots of things you can do. It's just really taking notice of your own sensory profile and doing everything to meet that need.